Okay. Hey there, budding botanists. I'm Aaron.
I'm Mimi.
We're just a couple of backyard botanists, and this is
Botany for kids?
So this is not going to be a botany for kids. This is going to be a
Mycology for kids.
Which is the study of what?
Fungi.
So,
Plants.
traditionally, we used to group all living things into 4 main groups. We're one of the groups. What are we?
Animals.
We're animals. We've been talking on this channel for episode after episode about what?
Plants.
And now we're going to talk about another group of living creatures that are fungi.
Fungi.
And so
there's another type, but we're not really going to talk about that because that's like fancy
yeah,
stuff.
yes, exactly. Thank you. There's a weird group of creatures that used to be called protists, and it's very confusing. A lot of them live in pond water and so forth.
It's like stuff that eats algae.
Yes, stuff that eats algae.
You might find some in your fish's cage if you haven't cleaned it up.
You might find some in your fish tank. Anyways, we're going to talk about fungus. And so what makes a fungus a fungus? When you think of a fungus, what do you think of?
Mushrooms.
We think of mushrooms usually, right? But there are lots of different types of fungi. In fact, most fungi live in soil. We've got a big bucket of soil right here. Most of the fungi on planet Earth live in soil under the ground. They live as this loose little stringy stuff that we call hyphae. And this loose little stringy stuff all together is called mycelium. Very good.
That's Minecraft. You might know that.
Oh, good call. Okay, so mycelium. And so one of the things that makes fungi different is the stuff they're made up of. Their cells is made up of something different. And that stuff is called chitin. So inside of plant cells, there's some stuff, it's called cellulose, that links all of the walls of the plant cells together. And then in fungi, all of the things that hold the cells of fungi together is a different type of sugar, and that's called chitin, okay? Chitin. So most of the fungi live in the soil, and what do they do in the soil?
They eat.
They eat stuff.
The stuff, yeah.
They eat stuff.
They eat the stuff in the soil.
Yes, they break things down, like the leaves that fall or the animals that die. They're what we call decomposers. So they break stuff down. Now, it's weird because the way that fungi do this is they kind of ooze into the soil, and then they secrete stuff, and then they slurp it back up.
I don't know if they know what secrete means, though.
So it would be like if we could vomit all over something and then come back by and maybe slurp it up later.
Like a dog?
Yeah. Oh, sure. Like a dog. Or it would be like if we could like melt down into the soil and all of our skin melted down, and then we could just slurp up all of the nutrients. That's the best comparison I can come up with. They decompose, they break stuff down, okay? And they even break things down inside of your house. You may see different types of fungi on all kinds of things. So
most common in your house is mold.
Yes.
This
so
is moldy
one
bread.
group of fungi.
This is cheese.
Yeah, one group of fungi is called a mold. And molds, which you see we have on cheese, sometimes you find molds on fruits. In fact, hold that thought. What's really crazy is the mold that grows on certain fruits is where we get certain medicines from, like antibiotics, right? Our antibiotics were first developed from the molds that grow on fruits, the things that help us get better when we get sick, when we get a bacterial infection.
This is actually from when I had strep throat a couple weeks ago. Yeah,
that's those antibiotics for when Evie had strep throat. Sometimes you see mold growing on what else in your house?
Bread.
If you leave the bread for too long, certain types of fungi grow on breads as well.
You probably most commonly see white mold that's...
And then it'll eventually turn colors once it sits for a longer period of time. And so we've got molds as one group of fungus. We've got yeast,
which is used for baking.
And what is yeast used for baking?
It makes it rise.
Yes.
It, like bread breathes.
Yes, it helps.
It's weird. Like we exhale carbon dioxide, and it also exhales carbon dioxide.
Yes, and so that's actually what's crazy is that we're more similarly related to fungi than we are to plants. We breathe out carbon dioxide. Yeast breathes out carbon dioxide. It eats the sugar in the flour,
in bread.
And it helps that bread rise.
It kind of looks like fish food, but...
Yeah, there's some yeast right there. We also use yeast to make some other products like beer and wine and this stuff. What's this called?
This is soy sauce.
Yeah, soy sauce. We use yeast to make soy sauce.
It's delicious, and I kind of want to drink it.
So we've got our molds, like we see on our cheeses and our breads and our fruits. We've got our yeast, like we use for baking or
Yum.
to make other things. And then we have got what you think of when you think of fungi, and that's what?
Mushrooms.
Mushrooms. So mushrooms.
This is the only one I can fathom to touch. It's dead.
That's a dried shiitake mushroom. We have some that are also rehydrated that
But those...
You can touch it. Come on.
It feels weird. No.
So mushrooms are in this really fancy group that we call Basidiomycota.
That's a word I can't pronounce.
You can. Let's break it down. So bass like the what?
Fish.
Bass like the fish. Bass.
Grandpa might catch them.
Sid like Sid the science kid.
Yeah.
You remember Sid the science kid?
Yeah.
Basidiomycote. Like go get my coat.
My coat.
My
coat.
So you've got your coat. So let's try it together. Basidiomycota.
Mycota.
Basidiomycota. So all of the, usually when you think of a mushroom, they're in that group. They're called Basidiomycetes, and they're in the Basidiomycota group, okay? Now, when we think of a mushroom, it has different parts to it, right?
Yes.
You want to show them the different parts of a mushroom? So the top is what we call
the cap.
Right?
The most popular type of mushroom has a red cap with white spots.
the cartoon mushroom you probably think of is that one with the red top. So the cap is the top of the mushroom. On the underside,
this is the, what's it called?
Which part? Those are the gills.
Gills.
Yeah, the gills.
Like a bass.
Yeah, exactly. So good comparison, Evie. So those are the gills, and then that thing at the bottom is the stalk, what holds it up, the stalk, sometimes called the stipe or the stalk, okay? And so in those gills are what helps the mushroom reproduce, and those are where the spores are held.
Which are unprotected seeds.
Yes, which are basically like seeds. And so the spores are microscopic. They blow away in the wind, they land in some soil, they grow some of that hyphae.
If you get like 15,000, you may be able to see them. But...
Yeah, and then all of those hyphae together, the mycelium, when it's ready for certain types of fungi, it will grow up and form a mushroom, which we call a fruiting body. And then it'll repeat that cycle. The mushroom will release some spores, blow away, grow into the soil, make some hyphae. The hyphae together is called what from Minecraft?
Mycelium.
Mycelium. The mycelium on some mushrooms, some never even come above ground. Most don't.
This was made a lot longer before Minecraft, by the way. This did not come from Minecraft.
Yeah, and so that mycelium will form a fruiting body or a mushroom and come up, and it will grow and fruit and release spores, continue the cycle, okay? So if you want to learn more about fungi and all the different groups like the molds or the yeasts or the mushrooms that we call Basidiomycotes, are you okay? You don't want to touch that.
It's disgusting.
This is just a shiitake mushroom that I've soaked in water to rehydrate it and bring it back to life.
So
look at it. If you want to learn more about mushrooms, then stay with us, because we're going to get into each of the groups and we'll look at different examples and what makes each group of fungi unique. As always, I'm Aaron.
I'm Evie.
And we're just a couple of backyard
mycologists.
And this is Mycology for kids.
We're also still Botany for kids. We'll probably still do a Botany, but new stuff.